Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Daily Check-In. I'm Ned Bellavance, Ned1313 on Twitter, and it is June 4th, 2020. Welcome to Thursdays on the Edge. That's right. Every Thursday, my Daily Check-In is going to cover something that has to do with edge computing technologies. That's what I'm focused on in some of my analyst work right now, and I thought it would be interesting for you to just hear more of my thoughts regarding edge technologies and edge computing. So that's going to be the general topic. And the specific topic for this one is IT versus OT, because it's a terminology that I was introduced to very recently. And I didn't really understand it at first. And now I kind of do. And I think as part of understanding it, I'd like to explain it a little bit. So that's what I'm going to do. Before I do that, one housekeeping item. Just want to remind you that if you prefer podcasts versus video medium, like someone shared this with you and you're like, man, I'd rather just listen to Ned talk than watch him ramble on a screen, then there is an option for you. You can check out the Daily Check-In podcast. It should be available on whatever podcatcher you're currently using. So if that makes more sense for you, I post this episode at 5 a.m. the following morning from when the live stream happens. So you'll get this episode, for instance, you'll get it Friday morning at 5 a.m. Eastern time. With that out of the way, I just want to check in with you. How are things going? Welcome to Thursday. I hope you're doing well. Had a little interesting incident on the home front. Shortly after yesterday's daily check-in, we lost power because this random storm came through. There's actually some weird weather term for it. It's something they made up, like bomb cyclone, but this one's called like derecho or Dorado or something. Maybe it was Dorado. Basically, it's just a super intense storm that only lasts a few minutes and it just blows right across the coast. That's what we had. It was like 70-mile-per-hour winds, but the storm was like 2-3 minutes tops. It was insane, but it knocked out power for us until this morning around 8 a.m. So no power. That was fun. Always an adventure with the kids, doing baths by flashlight and trying to get everybody to go to sleep when things are a little weird and you can hear all the generators running outside. So I think I'm going to get a generator. That might be a good idea. This is the third, fourth time we've lost power this year. It's weird. Anyway, so that's my interesting story. Let's get into the edge, shall we? And now we're going to be talking about IT versus OT. So first, a little bit of definition. When we say IT, we're talking about information technology, the technology of the interchange of information. Okay, pretty straightforward. That encompasses a lot of things. And so I want to focus that down a little bit. OT is operational technology. And so this is technology that is about operations. And that can be a little vague. So I'll get down into that in a moment as well. On the IT side, what do you think of when you think of information technology? You probably think of things like servers and storage and networking, the holy trinity of IT. Or you might think about end user computing. You might be getting into desktops and laptops and smartphones and how do you manage all of that stuff? Or you might be a layer up in the stack where you're not worried about those core primitives. Now you're worried about things like email and database services, or even higher up that managing cloud and SaaS kind of stuff. So when you think about IT, that's the stuff that you're thinking about. It's focused on providing applications to manage the information within a business. That's what it's there for. And it also has a consumer focused component to it as well, if you're the type of company that offers software and solutions to customers. So that's IT. And, I've spent my entire career in IT, so I'm very familiar with IT does. OT is very different. They're going to be focused on embedded systems. So we're talking about PLCs, printed logic circuits, or printed logic boards, or whatever they're called, PLCs. They're going to be focused on embedded systems on a chip inside a piece of industrial equipment. They're going to be looking at physical machinery that has a bunch of sensors that are providing real-time data and making decisions based off of that real-time data. They're going to be focused on these big industrial systems and large appliances and those kinds of things. They might have an expressly mechanical engineering background or have learned the trade on the shop floor. It's a very different approach, probably a different career life cycle. If you're in IT, you might have come from systems, you might have started on help desk. Your OT people, it doesn't seem like that's where they come from. They come from a very different segment. We both are responsible for providing services to the business, but in the case of OT, they're more about providing physical services to the business, whether it's manufacturing, it could be something in oil and gas where, they're responsible for the sensors and equipment that's on wells and rigs. It could be a hospital where you have all of this expensive appliances and equipment that needs to function properly. OT is focused on that. They're not focused on your email. So you have these two different groups, both working deeply with technology, both working with very different aspects of technology. Now, what's interesting is that the two are starting to intersect more often. What's the drive behind that intersection? Well, a lot of it has to do with data, AI and ML, and the edge. So let me unpack that a little bit. When you think about what these OT systems typically do, they are typically running some piece of machinery or physical device, and they're generating a lot of information from the sensors. Now, some of that information is used to make real time decisions on the machine itself. You might have a temperature sensor that's set for a specific tolerance, and if the temperature goes above that tolerance, it immediately shuts down that device because it could overheat and explode or injure someone. That's real bad. So obviously that information has immediate utility, but that information could also project failure rates for that piece of equipment over time. So you might want to take that historical data and go store it somewhere else. How is that data going to get there? Let me back up a little bit. A lot of these systems are not networked in the traditional sense. When you think of networking, you're probably thinking of like a TCP IP stack. And these industrial components and equipments are not even using the IP protocol, much less TCP. We're talking about SCADA type environments that use serial controllers to communicate between each other. We're talking any number of proprietary protocols that were invented by whatever company like Siemens or another industrial type company. Those are the types of things that they're communicating. And often these systems are a closed loop system that doesn't have a networked component to it. It might have a control station that has an air gap between the industrial systems that it's managing and maybe some sort of internet connection, but maybe not even that. It might literally be air gapped. When you want to update the software of that system, you need to load it onto a thumb drive or a floppy and walk it over to that system and plug it in and run through the update. Likewise, if you want to get data off that system, you might literally have to hook up a USB hard drive, copy the files over, and then disconnect it and walk it over. That's pretty inefficient, and it doesn't really work with the high velocity. We want to gather all the data and make, decisions. And then you've got the internet of things that are supposed to be connected all the time. One doesn't really work with the other. So you're seeing this intersection of IT and OT because now the two are being forced to work together because industrial equipment, it needs to be able to do things like AI and ML that can't happen directly on the device. So that data needs to be uploaded automatically somewhere else for that analysis and model training. And then maybe the model itself actually does run on the embedded device. That's all happening. The pace of innovation is increasing. And likewise, embedded devices are getting more sophisticated and more robust, and they need to be able to communicate out. Now, there's some concerns about these two worlds colliding because when it comes to the world of OT, stuff has to work. It has to work because if it doesn't work, people can die or get really injured. So in the OT world, there is a focus on stability and real-time feedback that is less present in IT. If your email system goes down for 5 minutes, some people might be moderately inconvenienced, but it's unlikely to injure or kill anybody. If the monitoring system for your assembly line goes down for 5 seconds, someone could die. They could be crushed in a machine that's malfunctioning, it stamps at the wrong time, and suddenly they have no arm. That's a big problem. So in the OT world, the things that are important are stability, predictability, and reliability. Not acceleration, not how fast can you drive innovation. It's making sure that people don't get hurt, that products are consistent, that things are done correctly. And so there's a push and pull between the two. Also, these systems often weren't designed with security in mind because they were meant to be disconnected from everything else and they were meant to be easy to operate. So, with that in mind, they weren't designed for the modern environment. When they get connected to these modern environments, now they're subject to potential hacking attacks or data exfiltration issues. And some of that data is really important. So, with that in mind, like there's this other real concern that as industrial IoT gets pushed down, that it's going to lower the reliability of the systems, make them less secure, and increase the failure rate of them. So there's this kind of tension that develops between the two groups. And I mean, I don't have the answers for it, obviously, but I thought it was an interesting exercise to think about how you have two groups that are really immersed in technology and have very different priorities and concerns when it comes to how their technologies are consumed and utilized. So I thought that was interesting, and I hope you found it interesting as well. Just a reminder, I'm working for GigaOM to create edge reporting and analyst content for them. So I have one report out that's all about infrastructure edge, which apparently is going to be renamed at some point. And edge co-location is the other one that I'm currently working on, and that's going to come out probably in the next week or so. So keep your eye on that. I'll include a link to GigaOM in the show notes. But with that, that's it for me today. I will talk to all of you tomorrow. It's going to be Friday. Love Friday. Very excited for that. Until then, stay healthy and stay safe, everybody. Thanks.